Well, it's Sunday morning and you're here on the Spectre Creative channel, which means you're either here to see last week's videos on the toy industry or you're here to watch Doodling with Purpose. I mean, you don't actually have to watch it on Sunday mornings. That's just when we have the new episodes. Heck, you should be watching them whenever you want because it's fun, it's free, it's the internet. All right, so let's start off by looking at last week's homework, and as always, the first thing to do is to practice glyphing, because that's basically the core to learning hieroglyphs, is to actually be able to write the glyphs, hence Doodling with Purpose. Get how the title works? All right, then we'll transliterate it by putting all of the letters into English as well as the sound complements, and now we're going to start translating. So first we have that IW, which means someone in the past did something, so we're in the past tense. And what's happening in the past tense? Well, we have the word for joined with. Joined becomes joined ed. And then we have who did the joining, and that is he. And I realize I left off the N that should have been above that. Shoot, that would have made the ed. All right, hope I didn't throw you off. Okay, the next word is king. And what type of king? A great king. I hate when I leave off words. Okay, well, hopefully you remember there should have been an N above the he. That's the ed part. I said that again. All right, now we are at a conjunction word, which is ma'at haru. And ma'at haru is a very common word in ancient Egyptian because, well, quite literally, it means true of voice. Ma'at is true, and haru is voice. So ma'at haru, true of voice, but what it tends to colloquially mean is the justified, which is the Egyptian way of saying rest in peace, R.I.P., like on a tombstone. So that's what Ma'at Haru tends to actually translate to. Now we have that water sign that should have been above the word for he, that horned viper, but in this case it means in when it's by itself. And then we have the word life, ankh, which is the ankh followed by the N and the h sound repeated. And then the word for war. So now that we've translated it, although poorly with my mistake there, now we can add the needed articles and ands, thus, which are not used in ancient Egyptian, they're just assumed, like in English. And then we have he joined with the great king, the justified or true of voice, in life and war. So it sounds like he was, dedicated to his king no matter what happened. All right, let's move on to some trilateral sounds. So the first one we have here is yet another column, because there were lots of columns used. And this is the one that's pronounced Iwin, I-W-N. And that's not a cross at the top, that's just a beam. So, because there was no Christianity back then. Now, this is a very interesting glyph and a very interesting word here, because you see three of the same glyph, then with the loaf and the determinative per for a house. So when translating it, you can obviously remove the echo effect, which in this case is created by the tripling of one trilateral sound. So you can cross off the additional sounds. And you'll probably say, well, then why bother tripling it? Well, one reason is in order to extend the word to fit in the amount of space. But the other is because this is actually one of those interesting words where you're more or less illustrating what you're saying as opposed to just saying it. So this is the word for a hall of many columns, specifically many columns, which is what most temples were. And that's why the column is repeated 3 times, because it's an interesting way of doing the plural. You see this pop up every now and then, which is why I wanted to show you this word. So we know it's a place because of the determinative for a house, and the many columns tell you that. All right, our next glyph is a chisel. It looks kind of like a bell, but it's a chisel because they didn't have bells back then. And it's pronounced Munich, with the H having that sound, like at the end of Bach. It's kind of like the word Munich, I guess without the I. That's kind of how I tend to sound it. So yes, remembering that the H with the little happy smiley face is a like Bach, or my last name, Neitlich, or Loch, like Loch Ness. All right, now this glyph tends to be used as a sound determinative. So here you see the game board, the water sign, and the placenta or shiv, which make up Munich. And you can cross off the extra sounds because then you have a determinative at the end, and it is a chisel, so it's the word chisel. It's an interesting way, again, I'm showing you a few words this time that are sort of different plays off of the way words are spelled. Now, if we added a true determinative at the end, not just a sound reminder determinative, This, in this case, being the papyrus scroll, which is used for any kind of word that illustrates or says something that can't be, I guess, physically seen, like an emotion, etc. And in this case, the emotion is efficient. So adding the papyrus roll to that same order of glyphs is efficient. All right, next we have the vulture. The vulture is an interesting bird because it's drawn just a little bit different. Instead of starting with the head and working your way down, you're going to start with the hump. It's the only bird other than the that's kind of looking off there. So we're starting with the hump, then we're drawing the inner body, then the outer wing going up like a traditional bird, drawing the tail feather, the second leg, and then the head is going to go up and is going to go straight out, and that's the way the vulture is. Give him something to stand on. And there you have Munich, or Mewit. And this is a very common word. We've seen this before, adding a T, which actually feminizes it, and having a feminine determinative. It's the word mother, which we've encountered before when we were not just dealing with vocabulary, but we're dealing with structure. So if we were to remove the determinative and swap it out, instead of having the determinative for a female, but keeping the vulture and the loaf, but dropping in this determinative. Now, I know it looks a lot like the SH, but you'll notice there's no dashed line indicating that it is a pool. In this case, it's a determinative of a weight, and it's literally the word weight. So another example of a word that's spelled the exact same way, but by swapping out determinatives, you get a different meaning, which is why the determinatives are the ultimate hint when it comes to hieroglyphics. See, there's a lot of things built into the language to help you along the way. All right, so here's your homework for next week. Check out those determinatives, find your word breaks, translate it, transliterate it. Well, actually, strike that, reverse it, transliterate it, then translate it. And we'll return next week, and hopefully I have not made a spelling error like I did last week, forgetting the water sign for the ED. I'm really going to give myself crud over that one. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Share, like, experience. I'm just so glad to have you as part of Doodling with Purpose, because we couldn't have this class without you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll circle back. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week for more Doodling with Purpose.